I love you. Welcome back to the Couch Potatoes. So happy to have you here. As always, it's always lovely to see your beautiful uds. Your uds? Your eyes? Your spuds?
Spuds.
I don't know.
Muds.
I meant to say eyes, but I said uds.
Yeah.
And I guess lids. I was going for spuds.
Were you trying to combine eyes and lids? Uds?
And I think what my brain was trying to do, I think my brain tried to autocorrect and go to spuds.
I see.
I think that's what it was trying to do.
I see.
Yeah. I don't know. It's stalling a lot today. We just had daylight savings time. I went to bed last night at 1. I have an internal clock, and my internal clock always wakes up at 6. It always, like, literally every day at 6 a.m. I am up, and like I don't need an alarm. I can just wake up right at 6. I don't know why. It pisses me off. But I went to bed at 1 o'clock. And at 2 o'clock, daylight savings time kicked in here in where we live in the good old U.S.
Yeah.
And because of that, at 2 o'clock, it miraculously became 3 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And somehow, still, at 6 o'clock, which used to be 5 o'clock, but at 6 o'clock now, my brain still woke up. And I've been up, and it feels very weird. I feel very off, like I have like severe jet lag all of today.
I'm sorry.
Where it's just kind of been like...
Well, you did only sleep for like 4 hours.
Yeah. I'm used to that, though, because I've had bad insomnia for a lot of my life. So, like, yeah, lack of sleep, I can deal with that. But the jet lag feeling of it is just so weird.
Well, last night at 10:50, I realized that in a few hours it was actually going to be midnight. So... I know that didn't make any sense, but it does math-wise. It was 10:50, so 11. But at 2 o'clock in the morning, that time that was 11 will be 12.
Yes.
So I was like, all right, might as well go to bed. And I went to bed, and then I woke up at 9:20, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're the worst.
I don't know if this makes it better for you, but as soon as we were done recording Moonstruck, I just got so sick. Just the worst. Like the worst. I don't know if it's the worst I've ever had it, but it was the worst in a long time.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I hope it's not a Nick Cage curse and that you're just going to have violent poops after every single time we talk Nick Cage.
That would be the worst. But it was so weird. I felt totally fine, and then I took my dog outside, and when we were outside walking, I was like, oh, crap, I do not feel well at all. And
once you jostled them bowels.
Yeah, they just needed a jostle, I guess. And then I decided to give up coffee, even though I didn't drink a particularly strong amount.
It's bitter.
No, I love it.
It's got that, I know, but all that acid, though, it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't do your digestive system good.
So, yeah, that's the sad hill I'm crying on right now.
Yeah, that's our spectacular lead into what we're talking today. I'm the Green Traveler from Gorsh.
And I am the Faceless Leone. This is Green and Faceless on the Couch, podcast about movies and TV.
You know, I don't know if anybody ever thinks about it, but like whenever I think of Green and Faceless on the Couch, I literally think of it as like a double entendre on, you know, you can be on the couch green and faceless, like you're just completely fucking sick. You know, and that is us today. We are the other side of our title today. We are just like on the couch, just like, oh, I need a vacation. I'm too old for this shit. Yeah, we're talking Nightmare Alley by Guillermo del Toro, who I don't know why I said it like that, but he is. We've known him for a long time. We've loved his works for a long time. He became much bigger not too long ago when Shape of Water won Best Picture. Which, again, I'm really happy that did because I love Guillermo del Toro, and I'm happy to see him get that kind of recognition at the Oscars.
And it was a good movie, but
it was a pretty good movie.
Wasn't there something it was up against that we felt like was probably going to get it, and it didn't?
I feel that way every single year, though.
That's true.
At the Oscars, it's like La La Land and Moonlight. I was just like, yeah, La La Land's of course gonna win. And then they call it and they're like, La La Land wins. I'm like, see, oh, sorry, no, it was Moonlight. Moonlight wins. Oops. And I was like, oh, well, I'm still wrong then. Okay, like I'm always wrong when it comes to Oscar. That's why we're not even doing it this year. These two are, I believe French Dispatch got Oscar nomination.
If it didn't, it should.
Yeah, I can't remember. But Nightmare Alley at least has. Nightmare Alley's gotten, I think, quite a few. Did I write it down? Yeah, Best Picture, Cinematography by Dan Louston, Costume Design by Luis Sequeira, and Production Design. So it's like it got quite a few nominations, and I mean, after seeing it,
most of all those, yeah,
all worth it, I think. And I think we'll talk Nightmare Alley first. I do want to, before we dive in at both of these films, I know this is a surprise to you, Faceless Leon. I saw two movies in the theater. We will be talking about them both later on, I think. I think we're going to work it in our schedule to cover both of them. I think they're on our schedule already, but we don't know if they're going to be streaming or not. The first movie is, I saw Death on the Nile. The latest Hercule Poirot film with Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot. I'll talk about it in much detail sometime, I'm sure. I don't want to give it that much time on this episode, but because it was just fun. It's a fun installment. If they want to keep making it a franchise, I definitely keep coming back because I like Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot. But everything else around it and all the shit surrounding Armie Hammer, look it up, Google him if you don't know anything, but like there's a lot of bad stuff coming up about Armie Hammer, and he has a huge role in this movie, and they apparently tried to tone it down. I have no idea how they could have toned it down. So yeah, it's
I had
ridiculous.
No idea that there was a thing about Mr. Hammer.
I would go into it. I don't know facts, so I don't want to say anything specifically incorrect or alleged in that kind of regard. So I just say, just Google it. He's done some things. I will say that. And and it makes it a little weird to watch the movie because all that stuff came out after they had already filmed, and they tried to do edits, I guess, and reshoots, but there wasn't much they could do. But it's still fine. It was a fun movie still.
Just like Baby Driver.
Yeah. And then there's some weird green screen moments that me and my friend, I watched it with Professor Ron Valdeskald, and there were some hilarious green screen moments where we were both kind of like pointing at the screen in the theater and just kind of like, we want to fix this.
I'm sure they did it during the pandemic. Some of those shots,
Yeah, I'm sure. And that's again with both of these films I'm going to talk about before our actual episode here. They were both COVID-made films, so like applause to them, because the other one I saw in the theaters, I have no idea how they could have made this in regards to COVID restrictions. It's The Batman. I cannot wait until we talk about The Batman. I'm very excited. If you have the ability to, if you feel safe going to the theaters, if you're vaccinated, all that fun stuff like I was, go see The Batman. Please see it in theaters. It was fucking amazing. And yeah, that's all I will say. I'm very excited to talk about that later, but I want to give a little bit of a green ketchup in there because I did go back to the theaters and I wanted to commemorate that moment, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it's been a while.
So, is that what you're going to say about the films?
Yeah, I don't want to go too much further in. I don't want to grade them or anything. I do recommend them both if you've seen Murder on the Orient Express. If you've seen that and you enjoyed that, go ahead and just watch Death on the Nile. It's the same kind of run. Agatha Christie was a fucking great novelist, so
yeah,
they work well as movies.
Sounds good. Sounds great. All right. Yeah. It's been caught up in the green of catch-up.
In the green. Yes. So let's jump on in. First up, we had started with Nightmare Alley, directed by Del Toro. He also wrote it with Kim Morgan, and it's based on a novel by William Lindsay Gresham. And I'll say I'm very excited to read that novel. I've never read it before.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, I think I would enjoy it more as a novel. Because I like a good character study.
Missing some of what's going on internally.
Like, I feel like the actors do a good job broadcasting that, but so the Nightmare Alley is kind of split up into, I mean, it's more than 2 acts, but it's easily remembered in 2 acts. You have the carnival half, and you have the post-carnival half.
Yeah, there's almost like a short third act, too.
Yeah, it is pretty short, but it is there. It's just, the way I remember it, that's the easiest way to divide it. And it's easiest because once they left the carnival, I kind of stopped caring. I still like the movie overall because it's a very good character study, and I'll discuss what that study is here. But overall, it just, like, once he left the carnival, once we lost that atmosphere, and it kind of moved on into the next part of the era, I was just kind of like, oh man.
And I think it might be because, at least for me personally, I am very much on the side of the Great Randy when it comes to, like, mentalists and people who take advantage of people just because they know how people behave. And that's pretty much what Bradley Cooper's character does in this film. And I'll let you do the synopsis, though. You seem excited to talk about it.
When you said the Great Randy, was that a character or was that a reference?
No, that's a person in real life. He's a magician, and he did kind of a crusade against psychics and people like that. Kind of like Houdini did back in the day, because psychics were gaining popularity again, and some psychics were getting very rich. So he came out and he fought against that for quite some time. There's this really good documentary. When I watched it, it was on Netflix, but I can't recall what it's called. So if you're interested in that, Google the Great Randy documentary and you'll find it.
That is interesting. I didn't know anything about that. I love I love the carnival atmosphere. Like, that's always been one of my favorite atmospheres. It's eerie. It has a very ominous feel to it. At the same time, it's very lively and enjoyable. And it's kind of like the perfect merging of horror and real life. And I don't know why I love that atmosphere. It's one of my favorite all time. Like, if you're ever going to have a horror, if I hear of a horror novel and a carnivore, if I hear of a horror novel and a carnival, I'm going to be very excited. It's a completely different horror right there. We're touching Silence of the Lambs, and I'm not sure about it. Well, actually, no, he's an omnivore. He eats meat and veggies. But anyways, yeah, Jurassic Park level of horror, I guess. But, like, I don't know. Carnival horrors, there's not, I mean, there's a lot of them, but there's very few good ones. But, like, Ray Bradbury, like, he has a couple, I don't remember the specifics, like, The Illustrated Man, I think. Or maybe it's just Illustrated Man. I think it's The Illustrated Man. Illustrated Man is by some other guy, Ralph Ellison or something like that. Completely different story. But The Illustrated Man is about, like, this, it's about a carnival, and it's this, like, very tattooed guy, and, like, all the illustrations have stories, and then he has, like, short stories for all the tattoos. It's really cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It's those kind of stories that really grab me. So this story, Nightmare Alley, is about Stan Carlisle, played by Bradley Cooper.
That's his name?
I think so. I think it's Stan.
No, you're right.
He comes to this carnival, and he I don't remember exactly how, but he ends up becoming a member of the carnival. He starts helping the seer lady, Xena.
First off, though, Clem Houtley hires him on as a hand.
Yeah.
Played by Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, and he from there ends up working with Xena, the seer, Toni Collette. Yes. And that's where you get the most prestigious part about Nightmare Alley. One of the reasons many people will remember this is you get to see Bradley Cooper's penis. And I heard that he had a full frontal scene. That's how I was told before watching this movie. And I was very disappointed. It's not full frontal. Really? You don't really... He's not, like, standing out of the water and you can see his penis. It's under the water, so it's kind of distorted. And, you know, you can see it if you're looking for it, and I was looking for it. Once I, like...
You're just too thirsty, Greg.
I'm too thirsty. Once I saw he was in a hot tub, I was like, oh, here it is. This is the full frontal scene. Where's the penis at? And then, she's sitting next to the hot tub and she puts her hand under the water. I'm like, oh, there's the penis. I see it. Yep, I see. I'm on it. I watch out for these things.
Yeah.
I need to know.
Yeah. All right.
You gotta know.
If you needed
it was advertised. It was in all the interviews.
I didn't watch any of the interviews. Typically,
they wanted people to know. It was their hook. They knew it would bring people into the theaters, and they were damn right. It brought me there.
I was down for Bradley Cooper and Guillermo del Toro.
I was down for Guillermo del Toro. That is true too. But it's a nice cherry on the top. Come on.
All right.
Let the people have what they want.
Yeah, if they want it, but okay.
It was consensual. He wanted it too.
Yes, he wanted it too. and I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy the scene, but also, I don't know. I don't know. Is that our podcast now? Are we Mr. Flesh?
We can have our little desires. I do actually, though. I really do love Toni Collette. I feel like that's my biggest problem is all these awesome characters that are pulled up or that are put up front, like Willem Dafoe's Clem, Toni Collette's Xena. There's others, I'm sure. I don't remember everybody.
Well, but you got Pete, David Strathairn's character,
right?
Yeah,
we somehow always talked about him. Yeah, he's in everything.
Yes, and I still haven't learned how to say your name. I'm sorry, but yeah, Pete here kind of becomes a mentor character to Stanton. But at the same time, Stan is really just kind of grifting him. Stan grifts everybody in this film.
Yeah, he's got a very hinted at darkness in his past, and they hint at it a lot. There's a lot of flashbacks to this exact same scene.
Yeah,
that was one thing that bothered me though is they kept cutting back to this exact same scene, and in the very first time that you see it, the very first flashback. It's so very clear what happens. Mm-hmm. So why do you keep cutting back to it? I know they're trying to further his character development and be give the tragedy more depth and all that stuff.
I don't think they really express who it is in that first scene. I think that's the only reason.
But it's implied immediately in the scene after,
right.
I don't know, that whole flashback, and it bothers me that it is the exact same moment. It's just one scene that he keeps. It's kind of like Shutter Island. If you've seen Shutter Island with Leo DiCaprio, the tragedy of his story, which I don't know, that wasn't Guillermo, was it? I don't think so.
Was it?
No, that was Scorsese. That was Martin Scorsese.
Okay.
I just remembered. But yeah, it's very similar to that, where they keep doing that flashback where Leo's cutting back to his to this moment with him and his wife, and it's that one's also kind of obvious what happened, but as it develops, it gets worse and worse. There's more to it as it goes on. Whereas with this one in Nightmare Alley, what you imagine up front with all of the objects that are shown to you in that first flashback, because you clearly see the window, you clearly see an old man in a bed, and you clearly see a sad Bradley Cooper. It's got it. A plus B equals C. I know what happened in this moment. Guillermo del Toro set this scene up really well. Nice job. And then we cut back to it a bunch more, and it's okay, you're not furthering his tragedy any. We already know what the tragedy is. Why do we keep cutting back to it?
If anything, those flashes back just help to justify the ending a little bit more, because there is also a lot to do with alcoholism in this film, and the character tries really hard not to have a drink for the first portion of the film. Mm-hmm. But as he does more and more dark things, he starts to drink.
Right.
Anyhow, I feel like it's kind of an expression of his PTSD from what happens in those flashback scenes.
Just catching up to them.
So I think it's less important that to know that we're seeing the same scene over and over again. It's more important to know that he's seeing the same thing over and over again, that he can't get it out of his head.
Gotcha. I mean, and that's good. It's just, I don't know, from where I was coming at it with the movie, I was just like, oh my God, I get it. Let's it was always during a moment that was very tense and exciting. I wanted it to move on. I wanted to keep going, and then they would just pause for a second to go back to that. And it's like, yeah, we've seen this. But yeah, I get that, I guess. It's just, I don't know, it sounds like I'm hating on this movie. I really did enjoy it. It was very fascinating character study of Stan joining this carnival as, like, I mean, he's already a con man, but becoming a better con man through their techniques. Like,
right.
I loved it. It really looks into, I don't remember if I wrote down the types of, like, they have their tricks, like, carnival, mentalists and all that have their, like, speech patterns that they speak in a way, like they'll have an assistant who will say things in a certain tone that'll let the individual on stage know what that character is holding in their hand, or, you know, and it's very fascinating, and it's all very real. Like, I looked into it, and it was all, you know, legit stuff, and I haven't seen that in a lot of carnival movies and stories, so that was very fascinating. I love that shit. Mm-hmm. And watching his character develop into this, like, great dark con man was really cool. And I loved Rooney Mara.
Yes, who plays Molly Cowhill, who I was about to bring up. Her act in the carnival is that she lets electricity run through her body, very Tesla-like, acting like it's big and painful when it's not. And they have some fun with that. In fact, they almost get, like, witch hunted by these religious zealots over it. And then Bradley Cooper saves the day by pulling out the mentalist shit out of his ass.
Right. That's a good scene.
That was a pretty good scene. And then shortly after that, he and Molly run off and they start their own mentalist act together.
Yeah.
But that gets interrupted by Dr. Lilith Ritter, Cate Blanchett.
Right.
She throws a wrench into things and becomes his psychiatrist somehow.
Yeah, it's very weird. Like, I mean, that's my problem with this whole movie is when it gets into that second half of things, when him and Rooney, him and Molly, when they run away and start their own stuff, it's still fascinating, especially when Cate Blanchett becomes involved, because Cate Blanchett is one of the best actors in the world. Yeah. She's amazing. Like, I fucking love watching her, and she is great here as just another kind of leery con person, con woman. It's very fascinating and fun still, but I'm just not as drawn because that carnival atmosphere is now gone. It's I mean, it's still there slightly, but it's not the same. That second half just feels a little weird.
Yeah, like, the whole thing is about manipulation. Every single scene is about them manipulating each other, which really makes for some excellent dialogue.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, this movie is very well worth it. The performances are great. There's awesome stories and monologues and stuff like that. So I feel like I'm kind of leading into my closing statement. Is that all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine by me.
I give it a face and a half. I really liked it. It's really dark, really kind of fucked up. The ending is a little predictable, but it's very well justified. Like, it's what the story is leading up to, and it works. I will say that, just a caveat to me saying that it's very predictable, the way he replied to what is said is so good.
Yeah, and that is a fabulous scene. That's where you kind of, if Bradley had been nominated for Best Actor, it would have been that scene.
It would have been that scene.
And he wasn't, but if he had been, it would have been.
I feel like he had to be an honorable mention in there, because this is a very good performance by Bradley Cooper. I mean, it's similar to what he did in A Star Is Born, but it's not the same caliber of performance. That was a great performance.
That's an easy segue into my closing statement, because that's yet another problem I had with it. Is it's too similar to other stories, and like, you know, again, all stories have been told, yada yada yada. This movie is very original. I do recommend it. It is very enjoyable. Everything that you said, good dialogue, good cinematography, the atmosphere, the carnival atmosphere at the beginning is wonderful. It is really well captured, and it's a lot of fun. It's just, a lot of it was just kind of ruined for me because I was too excited. I thought it was going to be a full carnival thing. I thought he was going to become like the new ringleader of the carnival.
I thought that was what was going to happen. And I also thought that there was going to be some Lovecraft shit because it's Guillermo del Toro.
Yes. That's what, coming into it, I immediately got the vibes of A Star Is Born meets Shutter Island. Because it's like, that's what I was getting from the flashback. Yeah. It's just, it's not as horrifying, and that was kind of also a disappointment. And then once the carnival was gone, I was like, oh man. And then,
I don't know, the geek scene was pretty
wasn't as exciting. What was that?
The geek scene with Paul Anderson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty horrifying.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff, and it's just I don't know. It wasn't as hype satisfying, I guess. You know, it had a lot of hype going into it, and it just kind of let me down a bit. I do, again, still enjoy and recommend it. I did have one more thing, and it's not this movie's fault. It's more of whoever sets up interviews' faults to push the movie, to broadcast the movie. And I only really saw one interview from Bradley Cooper for this, and it was on Stephen Colbert. And the clip they played was the finale. It was the last scene.
Yeah, that
was the clip that they showed. Out of context, completely fine. You don't know anything. You know, I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, that was a great scene. Like, wow, good job, Bradley Cooper. That's pretty cool. And then watching the movie, I was like, oh no. I think they showed me the finale. I knew the finale coming up because it was very obvious, given where his character is in that moment, that was going to be an end game moment. That was going to be a finale thing. And I was just like, oh my, it was kind of upsetting. So whoever sets up the interviews, I doubt you'll ever hear this, but like, fuck you, man. Don't show the finale yet. Don't show the finale when you're trying to promote a movie. Show another scene. Show something from the beginning. That was dumb.
Yeah, that was.
Let's get a soda pop.
Greatest.
Oh, I didn't even rate it. I gave it 3 stars. I gave it 3 stars. I still liked it.
Good movie.
It's not my favorite Guillermo del Toro, but it's still a damn good movie. So
I quite enjoyed it. I think maybe because I didn't watch anything about this movie, had no expectations going in. I did miss a little bit of monster magic, but it's a great look into manipulation and all sorts of things. And also, I don't know if we actually said it's based during the Great Depression, so everybody is desperate. So there's definitely this feeling of desperation throughout, and I appreciate everything that the film did. So here we go.
Yeah, soda pop.
Right.
The French Dispatch of the Liberty, Kansas Evening Sun. You want to know a fun fact I found out when I was researching this film?
What?
Jason Schwartzman is a cousin to Nick Cage. He's part of the Coppola family.
Jason Schwartzman, I don't know if I know who that is. Is it the...
he's in, like, every Wes Anderson movie.
The Mount Rushmore kid?
Yes, okay. I believe so. He was also in Grand Budapest Hotel. He was one of the guys at the waiting desk. I don't know. He's in so much. Basically, with this movie, you get every single Wes Anderson regular back plus Benicio del Toro, so that's kind of fun.
Is the French Dispatch real?
I do not believe so, but this is most certainly a love letter to journalists.
Yes.
One that I quite enjoyed, I don't mind saying up front. I had a brief, tiniest brief passion of becoming a journalist before I realized I just want to be a writer. I don't want to. I don't want to go places and write about that. I just kind of want to. I don't want to write about the news. I just want to write fiction. But boy, did this movie! It really made journalism very fascinating.
God.
Let's do it.
Yeah, Gonna need help with the synopsis, probably. Just because of the format. No. Because it's my turn. We're back. We're doing it.
Oh, we've been back. I'm keeping most of that.
No, you're not. So, this is the French Dispatch of the Liberty, Kansas. What's the last bit?
Evening Sun.
Evening Sun. That's it. It's great. It's the new Wes Anderson movie. It is done in a vignette style, but it is also just the video audio interpretation of a single issue, the last issue of a magazine, the French Dispatch, which was run by Bill Murray's character, Arthur Howitzer Jr. He was
Howitzer. Nice.
Yes. And it starts out with his obituary. Like, that's what the beginning of the movie is.
Right.
Very Wes Anderson style. The titles are part of the art. And he puts out what this issue of the French Dispatch is going to entail. First thing on that list is obituary. And it's Arthur Howitzer Jr.'s obituary. And he must have just died, too, because he was, working. In all the other scenes, he's working.
Yeah, they found him at work.
Yeah.
At his desk.
Yeah. They might have.
They did. It's in the movie.
Oh, right. Okay. There was a lot of things that happened in this movie, and I think it's one of those movies that you're going to have to watch more than once.
Every Wes Anderson is, honestly.
Every Wes Anderson, sure. But this one particularly.
That's the thing, is he's just becoming kind of a trope. And one I love. I have no shame saying, I know there's a lot of the cinema world seems to have churned where it's no longer Wes Anderson is a masterpiece. It's just Wes Anderson's style is just I get it, man. And I'm just no, I still love it. I get excited for it.
I am with you. But people are going to hate this movie.
I don't know. I don't think so, because I think it is just as satisfying as more of his it's not like The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou or The Grand Budapest Hotel. It's it doesn't have that
climactic ending.
Yeah, that climactic oomph, but it still has all of that Wes Anderson high art beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still fascinating to watch.
And some things are said, some things about life, There's, like we said, several different stories. You're going to have to remind me what Owen Wilson's story was like, but I think that was the first one, right?
I think so. It basically what happens is after you see that Bill Murray has died, as you said, it's just the magazine told visually, and the first story, I guess, after the obituary is the cycling reporter, which is just Owen Wilson telling what the day is like cycling around town.
He's very poetic. His character's name is Herb Saint Sazerac.
So stupid. I love it.
Yeah. It might be different than that because this is supposed to be in France. So you might not say Herb Saint that way. Might be
probably not.
Herb Saint.
Yes.
Hey, so we said it about the same, so maybe, it might just be that we're that hive mind or that we're right. We could be right.
Oh, man. No, it's a very hilarious. I don't know. It's his humor style. If you've seen Wes Anderson before and you haven't laughed, don't watch this. Obviously, you clearly don't have that humor. But his the delivery that you get, especially from Owen Wilson during that scene, is so funny because he's just mundanely just talking to you about how it's like riding your bike through town, being a cyclist, as he's just holding on to a truck and just pedaling along. And he's so then you're just gonna be doing this, blah blah blah. And then of course there's a moment where you've seen it if you watch the trailers, you've seen this because it's in the trailer, where he's just talking to the camera and he looks forward and he's oh, and he puts both hands on the steering wheel, on the handlebars, and then just falls down the subway stairway because he was just wasn't looking where he was going. It's funny. It's hilarious to me. I was laughing constantly throughout.
I was really enjoying it. I will say that the transitions threw me because there aren't any. That's how it kind of feels, because it really goes from one story to the next. Sometimes there's a little bit of Bill Murray with the writer, but I don't think that happened every single time. Maybe it did. But either way, probably because I didn't quite catch that we were just doing the magazine at first, the interval, the changing of the stories threw me, because I'm like, okay, so when does the other narrative come back in? They don't, just so you know.
Right. Some of them do have tiny effects into other stories. Like, you'll see certain small things, but not until the ending do they really come back at all.
Yeah, and they only come back because all the people who wrote these stories are in the same room.
Exactly, getting that final issue prepared. The next story, I think it's the first story, is The Concrete Masterpiece. Benicio del Toro and Adrian Brody and Leia Sado.
Yes, so
I don't know if I'm saying her last name right, so apologies,
I
Leia.
think Sado is probably as close as we're going to get. But she plays Simone.
Yes.
Benicio plays Moses Rosenthaler, and he is in a maximum security prison, maybe the psychiatric ward even. But he is an artist, a forgotten artist, and he draws. Yeah. He just, after 20 or 30 years of just being in his cell, he decided to come out and join the painting crafting department of that, and somehow he got Simone alone with him in a room, and she was his muse, and painted a new masterpiece. Very abstract, but also it is really good painting. I like it anyways.
I get it. I can see it. I can see it. I can visualize it.
I don't know what the title was. I forget, but it was quite long. Another Wes Anderson thing to do is make titles of things super long, which I do that too. So anyhow,
yeah.
The last part of it was Simone, and Julian Cadazio, Adrian Brody's character, comes in and is like, I want to buy your art, even though he's a prisoner too. He's like, when I get out, I want to buy your art. And he's like, well, that depends. And he's like, on what? What she has to say. And he's like, she doesn't own your art. And he's like, no, she's Simone. And, so knowing that she's Simone ahead of time kind of ruins that joke, but whatever. Anyhow, the story is about how he got rich and famous again, and how Tilda Swinton did a presentation on it. And I don't remember who wrote that particular article for the French Dispatch. It might have been Tilda Swinton's character.
I think it was Tilda Swinton.
Well, she plays J.K.L. Berenson, and she is as hilarious as she always is. I don't know. I always find something funny about her performance, and she's just so fucking good that she can get away with being comical. That's what it is.
Tilda Swinton's another one of my favorite actors. I mean, that's the kind of thing, is my love for films honestly kind of blossomed with Wes Anderson. When I first saw a Wes Anderson film was when I was like, oh my God, I kind of want to work on one of these films. And that's kind of where a lot of my love for this came.
It's a movie for cinephiles.
Yeah, it really is. And honestly though, all the actors that he gets, because it's not hard for him to get actors to work with him. He basically just says, you want to work in my movie, and most actors will jump at it.
Yeah. It sounds fun to me.
But all of the actors he gets are some of my favorites, and The Concrete Masterpiece, this first short, was probably my favorite of
I
all.
loved it. I was like,
it's so good.
This is what the movie's about. And then it changes.
Yeah, that's always the thing with anthologies, is just kind of always just like, oh my God, you get attached to one story, and then you're immediately like, oh. But not only do you have Benicio and Tilda, Leia Sado herself is really good. She was in the first time I heard about her was Blue is the Warmest Color, but she was also in Grand Budapest Hotel. Mm-hmm. She's also Inspector and No Time to Die. I haven't seen No Time to Die, but she's a Bond girl now. So like her career is blossoming.
I haven't seen the new Bond one either.
I love her opposite Benicio because Benicio is wild in this.
Yeah, he sure is. I think it's my favorite performance of his. I think it is. It's either that or Usual Suspects.
Yeah,
you can't.
I would say it's either this or Sicario. I really love his Sicario performance.
Sicario, so I couldn't say.
Oh, we'll have to fix that. We'll have to do a Denis Villeneuve playlist or something.
Sounds good.
But yeah, I enjoyed this one a lot. I do want to also say 3 more actors that were in this that I love. Adrian Brody's business partners, Bob Balaban and Henry Winkler.
Oh, yeah.
Bob Balaban's been in a lot of other Wes Anderson movies. He's the fisherman in Moonrise Kingdom, the guy in the yellow boots. Yeah. Wonderful actor. I love him. And Henry Winkler, of course, is hilarious. But the last actor I wanted to mention before we move on is Tony Revolori, who plays a young Benicio del Toro.
Oh, right.
He was he was the Grand Budapest kid. And he's great. He does a good job as a young Del Toro. He sells it pretty well.
Yeah. Well, he plays a young Moses.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Which is Del Toro's character. Come on.
He plays like Del Toro playing Moses Rosenthaler.
My brain sucks at remembering character names. I just call them the actors.
I'm sorry. I won't make fun of you anymore. Okay. So, we are moving on to, I believe, Jeffrey Wright's story, right?
No, it's next is Frances McDormand's.
Oh, okay.
Revisions to a Manifesto.
Okay. This also felt like the main part of the movie. So, Frances McDormand plays Lucinda Crements, who I feel like is like, I feel like they say she's a Pulitzer winner or something. I don't know.
Yeah, she's some really big.
She's supposed to be pretty prestigious. And she meets this kid played by Timothy Chalamet. His name is Zeffirelli. And he's a teenager, and he kind of like falls in love with Frances a little bit. But not really.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, she sleeps with him, which is really weird to me.
Yeah.
Which there's kind of that weird stuff in Wes Anderson sometimes.
But that's also just a weird story trope in and of itself is young man falling for the older woman.
Right. But anyhow, she decides because he has this manifesto, which she edits, that that she's going to follow him through this journey of bringing forth the tenets or whatever in his manifesto. Is Lena Cauldry, who plays Juliet? Yes. So they're joined by a bunch of youths, including Juliet, who she rides this Vespa and has the helmet on all the time.
Yeah.
She is in love with Zeffirelli, and I don't actually remember what they're trying to accomplish.
I don't either, honestly. This is the one that I forget.
It seems so important. But I think, basically their problem was that, people aren't allowed to just live. They have to... Why are people working at these jobs that... it's basically something. I don't know. He's an anarchist or something. Whatever. Fuck. It's very convoluted. They don't actually talk about what's in the manifesto, I feel like.
No, I don't think ever they do.
So she sticks around with them, and she writes the story, and I'm gonna leave what happens to Zeffirelli for the viewer, I think. Then it's Jeffrey Wright's story. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
The private dining room of the police commissioner.
Yes. So Jeffrey Wright playing Roebuck Wright. So probably wasn't that hard.
Come on, now.
No, yeah.
He's amazing in this.
He was amazing. I love him in this. So what happens is that he's in an interview with Leif Schreiber, He is a television reporter interviewing Roebuck Wright about his journalism. and asking him about his ability to remember nearly everything that he's ever written. And he asks him to recite one particular article that he has written. And he does, verbatim, over television. And that's the whole segment. So when I say Leaf Schreiber really has a small role in there, he literally is there to introduce Roebuck Wright. That is it.
Yeah, and then they have a little back and forth every now and then when the story gets wild.
I can't.
Yeah, they'll cut back to Leaf being like, "Whoa!" And then what happened, or like something like that.
Yeah, because he's still like, even though he can remember every word he says, he's still like his brain still trails off into. Yeah,
he is still such a great storyteller, but he does he does get lost in his stories.
So the story that he is retelling is about a time where he's a food critic. That's his job. And he goes to what he thinks is the police ballroom, but he either got the wrong address or something, and he walks in on like a crime happening. I can't remember all the details, but it's very fast, very like, has like this jazzy pace to it. I really enjoy it, and the detail he gives is just amazing. Everything that he talks about has to deal with food in some way. And he explains that, and that's a wonderful part of his story. And I'm glad that they put his story towards the end, because it did feel kind of like, I think Bill Murray put it best. That's what makes the story worth telling. It was one of the moments that felt that way. And so when he actually is describing the food though too, that's phenomenal. I love it. But also it's just Jeffrey Wright's voice. It's just, it's just amazing. You gotta listen to him to say anything.
And this story also has Willem Dafoe as well, and Edward Norton, and I think her first name is pronounced Charisse Ronan. It's got a lot of big cast people in this story as well.
Yeah,
and it's, as you said, it's a fun, fast paced story. I also don't remember a lot of the details. I just remembered enjoying the crap out of it, mostly because of Jeffrey Wright's storytelling.
Yes, it's great. Great narration writing on the side of this.
And fun fact, we talked 2 Willem Dafoe films today.
Yeah, we did.
And thanks to my green ketchup, we talked 2 Jeffrey Wright films, because Jeffrey Wright's in The Batman.
There you go.
He's fucking phenomenal in it.
Who's he play?
He plays Gordon.
Oh, cool. That's right. I've seen that.
Him
in the trailer.
That's he is a great Jim Gordon too. I really love it.
Well, I'm already excited to watch that movie. I give this movie a full face. I really enjoy it. I'm definitely going to watch it again. I like Wes Anderson's style. I honestly, dude, I really do think a lot of people are going to really dislike this movie. I have not read that many reviews, but the first review that I saw was it saying that it was like a mess and stuff, and like, that's not true. It's a very well organized movie. Every Wes Anderson movie is very well organized.
That's what I was saying. Like, people have flipped on Wes Anderson now. It's no longer like, they don't see it for the fun storytelling and the art cinema. Like, most people nowadays are just kind of going in, it's like, it's his style, it sucks, it's that kind of a film. I think if you like Wes Anderson, you're gonna love this film. Like, I give it 3 stars. It made me laugh so fucking much. I was enjoying the crap out of it. But I knew what I was gonna expect. I was expecting this. This is what I was expecting. This is what I got.
Did you know about it being articles ahead of time?
I did not. I had no idea what this movie was about. I just saw the one trailer and knew it was about that. It was like a love story to journalism. That's all I basically knew. And yeah, I definitely enjoy it. In regards to who wins between the two, I personally pick French Dispatch because I laughed a lot and had a great time. Whereas with Nightmare Alley, I had a great time for half of the movie, and then the other half I was like, can we get back to the first half of the movie?
I appreciate that. And I would say it's very close with these films. I know I didn't give French Dispatch a face and a half. And I did Nightmare Alley. I'm going to go with Nightmare Alley. They're very close, though. Because I think they're both very good films. Very well constructed storytelling. And it seems like a part that I felt like added to Nightmare Alley, you kind of felt like took away from it. So, I mean, that's criticism right there. So I'm going to give it to Nightmare Alley.
And that's fair. And like at the same time, I think the part that bothered me about Nightmare Alley, I think that's still great because as a character study, it's fabulous. You know, it's like that's what I'm trying to get at is that there are many times where I'm going to sound very detrimental to a film that I love, and it's just because it didn't go the way I wanted it to, which is still fucking wonderful.
Right.
You know, film doesn't have to do what I want it to do. It's got to do what the artist wanted to do. But yeah, it's just for me that loss of that atmosphere lost me. It lost my focus. I was super riveted, and then it lost me. But like if going back into it, like watching it a second time, I think I'm gonna love it even more. Like I think I'll love it a whole lot more. So,
amen. That's the show.
I think that's been the show. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am the Green Traveler. I thought you were going to say something. I am the Green Traveler from Gorsh.
And I am the Faceless Leon. Safe travels and good night. Hope you enjoyed it. We didn't mention our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Green and Faceless. If you enjoyed the show, please, if you want to support us, that'd be great. Have a good night. Safe travels. Bye. Green and Faceless on the Couch is a proud production of FictionWorks 19. If you like the show, please show your support by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Like, follow, subscribe, wherever you might listen. We also now have a Patreon account. If you feel so inclined to support us in a financial manner, please become a patron by visiting patreon.com/Green and Faceless. You can also find more information about us on our Facebook account or on the FictionWorks 19 Instagram account. Thank you so much for listening.